Mother, Father, I understand you are not the source of unconditional love for me in this lifetime. I accept I will never be good enough for you and that you are incapable of appreciating me for just how special and wonderful I am. I accept you will never be the parents I'd wish to have, and I love you regardless. The way you show up for me is exactly what I need for my greatest soul's evolution. Thank you for giving me life.
Now, in the present moment, you take that free will decision. I will clean up my ancestral line. I will clean up my soul. I will help my soul evolve and grow, and as a result, benefit everyone who interacts with me going forward and my entire lineage. You can choose pain in this moment by doing this and have it like set for the rest of your life and your family's life, because when you heal yourself, like in the past and in the future, they all benefit as well. Or you can suppress this, never release it, and even if you do not have children yourself, that suppressed emotion, that subconscious crap swept under the carpet, it's going to show up in how you move through the world. And other people, you might not notice this consciously, will be on the receiving end of it, and that's just only going to spread. So it's your choice on whether you want to get the messy stuff out now in the healing process, which is kind of like surgery. Hi, welcome back. This is Wan Lin, La Princesse des Beaux-Arts. Today, I want to share with you a very useful and life-transforming spiritual practice that I actually did last night. So today is the last day of Ben HaMetzarim, I think. It's a very powerful spiritual portal where people tend to experience conflict and aggravation, and it's also a time for a lot of healing and spiritual expansion and growth to take place. That doesn't necessarily happen as much the rest of the year. And today's the last day, and last night, I did this letter burning ritual, and I'm going to show you today how to do that. And afterwards, I also want to describe and explain to you why energetically and emotionally, traditional talking therapy has such a low success rate and cure rate, using some examples from my personal life. So why do we do this letter burning ritual? Like, what's the point? Like, to set the thing in flames? Like, that seems kind of illogical. Let me break this down for you. Fire is one of the most powerful cleansing elements we have access to. Along with water, a bit less so, because fire really like eats up everything. And this is why, if you look in art, fire has a huge symbolism for releasing everything that has a lot of stuck emotions and karma and attachments. If you look at films like Andrei Tarkovsky's Mirror, which I love, and What's Eating Gilbert Grape, the ending, where, spoiler, the protagonist, he's finally able to feel free and go live his own life instead of being his mother's caretaker. The house burning down, it was a visual representation of this cleansing and release of everything that was physically and energetically keeping him stuck in place. And when you burn a letter that has all of your true channeled emotions in it and everything that you've suppressed throughout your life, as we have been taught living in a society, that is so deeply healing and can really turn your life's trajectory to its highest optimal path. Now, I also want to share a little story before we begin about many years ago when one of my classmates, Pierre-Louis, in art school in Paris at the École des Beaux-Arts and Atelier of Jaunes Phare, I remember it was around springtime near the summer, I was going through a really bad breakup, and he could understand how I felt, and he invited me to go to his familial house near Fontainebleau, the forest outside of Paris. And he took me to go see this really special place, his like secret hideaway spot in the forest that had a hill of rocks and a ledge where you could see a huge panorama of all of the trees. And what was special about that one sunset was that he explained to me All of these trees were burnt down in a forest fire not so long ago. And the trees that we see now are the new growths coming up from the fertilized ash. And if you look at forestry and ecological cycles, forest fires, are actually a self-regulating, fertilizing, cleansing pattern in nature. And what happens is, as some older dead trees burn down, the ash turns into fertilizer to let new saplings grow from the earth. And that cycle continues throughout time. And this is just the beauty and the power of fire, to give you like a tiny example of this. And now to the actual process. I'll start with the materials, then I'll tell you the instructions and the prompts you can use to get started. Now you can do this even if you live in a city. Just be sure that you have open air and that there are no like flammables nearby. You have an open space. This could be like a window ledge, but then still you want to be careful and keep an eye so that there's no like wind or interference that could make things dangerous. You want to have a fireproof container. So what I used was this little cast iron cauldron my dad mailed me. I think it's like several decades old, probably from like the early 20th century. He found this at a market, a roadside market in Louisiana when he was traveling, which I love the irony. I can still smell the smoke. Oh, I can still smell the ashes from the letter I burnt inside the pot he sent me with all of my rage that I wrote against the father figure, not just him. Because what you do is you actually collapse your traumas and emotions across lifetimes when you're doing this practice, at least in the most effective way. So you get your little container, you find an open air space with good ventilation where you can burn things. You could have a fire pit, you could have a little space you create in your yard. Don't do this indoors, please. I cannot be liable for that kind of behavior. Or like a windowsill where there's not too much wind or interference, okay? And then you get your gloves, like the oven gloves or whatever, matches. A candle is helpful because sometimes the fire like gets dimmer and you want to like relight it. So what you do is then you get the paper. Thinner paper burns easier, and then you get your writing tool, right? So this is the actual meditative process you do for the letter burning ritual. You want to drop in to a meditative state. It's especially helpful and useful. I did this at night in my bed, and I turned the lights very dark so that I could barely see the page. And I did this with like a lot of my eyes closed, actually. I put binaural beats on the speaker. I find that putting on some sort of background frequency or binaural beats, you can find those on YouTube, that actually helps you set the mood to drop into that meditative state where you can channel your deepest subconscious feelings from your childhood to across lifetimes. So you put on the beats, you dim the lights, you get in a place where you will not be disturbed, okay? And then I want you to close your eyes, drop into that meditative state, and then I want you to visualize and feel. You gotta feel into the figure in front of you, the archetype. It could be one person if you're doing this on a more like specific narrow scale, but if you want to maximize like the efficiency, let's say you're healing judgment that's blocking your energy from your father, you can actually, instead of just writing only to your father, feel into how you relate to authority figures, how you relate to men, older men, how you relate to dads, uncles, older brothers across lifetimes. You want to take your time to visualize that one, all these figures collapse into one figure in front of you, and feel how that makes you feel. Like how disgusting and angry and bitter that makes you feel. And then you take that emotion and you write it out on the page. You can rage on the page. I literally like used my mechanical pencil and I had to hit the paper a few times. And the thing is, with emotional release and healing, when you cry, when you feel rage, that's a great sign that it's actually working, that it's actually coming out. And when I tell you some of the older generation, they never experienced this. The reason is, you might have heard this expression that, well, the older generations, like some of them have this mentality that you just need to get a life. You need to go do something, get a job, and then you'll stop feeling so sad and like moody about this stupid stuff. The older generation are also the generation of women who would clean nonstop and cook nonstop to not process how miserable they are and how not underappreciated they feel. The older generation are also the men who would, instead of processing their emotions, go have affairs and then go sailing at 4 a.m. so they don't have to be around their family. Like, the point I'm bringing home is, you either bring out your emotions now in the present moment, you take that free will decision. I will clean up my ancestral line. I will clean up my soul. I will help my soul evolve and grow, and as a result, benefit everyone who interacts with me going forward and my entire lineage. You can choose pain in this moment by doing this and have it like set for the rest of your life and your family's life, because when you heal yourself, like in the past and in the future, they all benefit as well. Or you can suppress this, never release it, and even if you do not have children yourself, that suppressed emotion, that subconscious crap swept under the carpet, it's going to show up in how you move through the world. And other people, you might not notice this consciously, will be on the receiving end of it, and that's just only going to spread. So it's your choice on whether you want to get the messy stuff out now in the healing process, which is kind of like surgery. Surgery is not meant to be pretty and perfect, but it's part of what resolves things sometimes. So that's the analogy. So when you've dropped into this meditative state, you feel that entity across from you, whether it's the father, whether it's the mother, whether it is the authority figure, whoever it was, you write your rage and your pain from across lifetimes, from across decades, from across childhood. You write, as long as that needs to take, okay? You write, and your signs that this is really taking effect is your handwriting changes. Your handwriting could change into like a child's writing, or it could change even style. You can get really aggressive. There's like all sorts of factors. You could have like weird spelling. You could write things that don't make sense to your conscious mind in this present reality, because it could be from like lifetimes past. And then you rage on the page until you have nothing left, really, until eventually you stop, you slow down, you stop. I don't know how many pages this will take for you, but afterwards, you don't need to show anyone. You don't need to read it. Just like roll it up, or you can also like tear it, I suppose, but I rolled it up kind of like a bundle of sage. And I put it inside my fireproof container and I lit it on fire in an ventilated, safe area. And to help it burn easier, you can put like hairspray or lighter fluid. I didn't have lighter fluid, so I used drawing fixative, which is flammable. You could do what I did, but also like be careful. You want to be safe throughout this process, okay? And know that there will be smoke coming out. And what's interesting is that the smoke, even though I was doing this outside my window at night, for some reason, like the smoke, it would just blow in my direction wherever I walked. I was like supervising the process so it would be safe. But I noticed that instead of blowing upwards or away from the building, the smoke would like constantly try to blow towards me. So that was showing me also, when you light candles, when you burn sage or Palo Santo or incense, the way the smoke unfurls can tell you a lot about the space. Okay? So that was very interesting. And I knew in that moment that all of this pent up stuff was finally getting released into nature forever through the power of fire. And that's just one example of a ritual practice that you can use to change literally the trajectory of your life and heal patterns that have been buried in you, stuck in you for ages. And the next thing I want to bring to light is the energetic reason why talking therapy has such a low success rate. And this is my observation. This is not medical advice. This is my experience for entertainment and educational purposes only. You might have seen short videos online on social media interviewing therapists about how many patients they've cured. And I've seen a video where the therapists plural being interviewed saying, none of my patients have been cured. Why is this? Well, with talking therapy, traditional therapy, what you're able to do is bring to light and bring to awareness certain patterns you have in your life and the thought and emotions that play out through your actions and habits in the present day, right? That's something that we're all aware of as we begin to grow in our self-awareness and spirituality and more towards living a conscious life. But awareness is freaking step one. Awareness is not the cure, okay? And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, because I'm going to tell you something that right now that's not very pretty. Lots of people like to suffer. People choose to suffer. People choose to repeat cycles because it feels good to them. Keyword. They don't take necessarily the perspective through traditional therapy. They don't get to the next level of actually wanting to go past this pattern unless if they actually choose to. And then that's when therapy works. Because therapy is like how you grow aware of these patterns and how they play out and how they repeat in your life. But it cannot do the fish. It's basically like teaching, it's like giving you a fish, but you've got to learn how to fish for it to work long term. Also, like paying $70 to $100, bucks, whatever, euros, pounds, wherever you are, is not feasible for everyone. So one thing I really want to stress, which is also something that the singer Jewel activates for, which I love her so much. I love her music, her attitude, her personality, everything. She's a mental health advocate and singer-musician. And she said something really beautiful along the lines of people, especially young people, need to be taught the tools to do this healing inner work for themselves. Because it's not practical to pay $100 per hour for everyone to go to a therapist, talk about why they do certain things in life, and then not actually achieve the stage where they decide to evolve past it. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about a woman I met who I actually don't know who she is. I only know her first name. But this will illustrate perfectly how we choose to stay in patterns, no matter how aware we are, okay? So there's this lady that I met in my favorite cafe, and she has this really special magical energy, yeah? And you can tell that she likes this more spiritual stuff, but she's sort of, so to speak, more contained by her obligations to her family, her identity as a wife and a mother, as many women do. And she told me, by the way, I don't know who she is. I couldn't find her online if I tried. Like, we only spoke in person and then we went our separate ways. But I gave her a tarot reading just for fun, yeah? And I described a lot of exactly what was happening in her life, which was having a difficulty in her relationship, specifically not being happy with her husband, having an affair and all of that. And I could see, like at that moment also, I could see how if I did not make certain decisions I made in the past, I would have had a life similar to hers. What do I mean? The first time I met her twice. Once was like very recent, and the first time was like several weeks or months ago. when I gave her this tarot reading, she didn't tell me anything about her life, only that I should tell her what I see. And I described a lot of what she was going through. But she told me something very interesting. She said to me, I know that this is time I take for myself when my children are grown and away. I know that I'm interested in the spiritual or occult stuff. But the thing is, I know what the right decision is, perhaps to like be more independent and decide to say, no, I'm not accepting this sort of treatment from my husband. I'm not accepting like infidelity or whatever. I'm gonna leave and have my own life. She told me, like, through her own words multiple times, I know how to break, I know what the cycle in my life is. She's a Taurus, so a common Taurian mentality is it will get better tomorrow. And sometimes it really doesn't. And I've seen that, how that has played out in my own life, like a common karmic pattern of settling in relationships. And she told me, like, I know what the cycle is. I know what the, so to speak, right choice is, but I need something very clear to show me, something like decisive to show me to do something. And the way karmic cycles work is that if you don't break it the first time, the scenario repeats over months, years, decades, and lifetimes. And each time it generally gets worse and worse and worse until you're hit with like a health issue or something extremely tragic that forces you to make a different decision, because otherwise it's just intolerable. And she said exactly what so many people in life are experiencing, which is, I know what the right decision is for me, but I can't make that decision until something happens that like puts it straight in my face and there's like a point of no return. There's something like unforgivable happens, which I don't know if there's anything more unforgivable in a relationship than infidelity and like disrespect. But anyways, when I heard her say that, I understood that going to therapy and like even like talking to your friends and acquaintances about all your problems, you get this sort of emotional gratification and release from finally having your needs met in some way, like receiving attention and concern, right? But you need to take the next step into actively deciding, I will change my thought patterns, beliefs, identity, and behaviors. And until you take the next step into deciding that you actually want something different, therapy cannot cure you. It can only tell you what is wrong. The next step is a personal decision. And whatever decision happens, it is part of your personal evolution. And I will not say whether it's right or wrong. But I will say now that through modalities like what I'm showing you today, you can heal yourself with your own volition. You can take these practices that don't cost a lot of time or money or energy, especially relative to the benefit you receive from it, and give yourself wings to fly. Like, empower yourself. Otherwise, I kind of feel like disclosure, I feel like it's important to tell you this. I have not ever been to therapy, and all of the healing I did, the healing work was like on my own. And the one time I went to therapy was when my art school in France years ago started subsidizing a therapist to come and speak with students on campus, and you could go there for free. So I went there once, and about 15 minutes in, we were just silent, and I started laughing uncontrollably, and I had to leave. And you can bet that I did not get any healing from that. And why was it? Because oftentimes we have different like reflex reactions to trauma, which is why some of the most traumatized people in this world with the most difficult childhoods, they're the funniest. Because honestly, at that level of comedic mastery, it's a cope. You know, like Jim Carrey and Ricky Gervais. It's God tier coping mechanism. And also when you get angry or when you get obsessive about like cleaning, or you escape like with alcohol, drugs or whatever, or food, or get some sort of activity to just put your mind off of it, you're not actually solving it long term. Solving it long term requires addressing everything that has been hidden. And you can do this through meditation, through the process I described to you today. And oh, before I forget, this is a sample of the prompt that I want you to feel into, to like jumpstart your letter writing process. And this prompt is something along the lines of: Father, Mother, or whoever you're addressing this letter to, I accept that you are not the source of unconditional love in this life for me. I accept that I will never be good enough for you or please you as much as you would like. I understand that you will never be able to appreciate me for exactly who I am and how special I really am. And despite all of this, I still love you, and I know that you love me, even if you don't know how to express it. I know that every painful experience I've had with you has led to my soul's greatest evolution. And I thank you for giving me life. For example, if you're speaking with a parent. And then you continue. So part of this is radical acceptance. And once you, for example, like what I did there, once you remove the expectation and disappointment that comes with having someone not be exactly the way you wish they were, once you lift that, you release so much energy. You're just like, okay, I accept. I will never be good enough for you, mom and dad. I will never be the child you wish or you think you wish you had. I know that you'll never be the perfect parents I thought I think I want. Love will be conditional, but you know, this is how Earth is. Earth is not a place of unconditional love, as we can clearly see. At the most, it is selfless love, it's a sacrificial love. You are your source of unconditional love, and this is why you do things like emotional healing and release and self-improvement. So really, you are the craftsman, the artist, the only one who is capable of channeling that pure, unconditional, divine love for yourself to create yourself into that diamond that you are. Yeah. So that's it for today. Let me know how your letter burning ritual goes. I am so interested and glad and happy to share this with you. And you can find me on Instagram under La Princesse des Beaux-Arts, where I share beautiful images from my travels, life, observations, and writing. Also videos about spirituality. And subscribe here if you want more videos from my life as an artist about creativity and spirituality. Okay? I love you all so much. I send you much care and love. And I will speak to you soon, okay? Bye! Oh, also you can book a call with me on my website if you want. If you feel inclined to do so.